presentar la experiencia Irlanda o Reino Unido en realidad, porque nos va a hablar de todo Reino Unido. Así que bienvenida María y gracias. Nos falta poner la presentación, que tengo que ver cómo hago. ¿Están? ¿Vos sabés? Conectar. Porque ¿estás segura que al conectarla va para el interior? Bueno, por eso, Ana es la que tiene que estar acá. Pero yo... No hay puntero. No hay puntero.
I feel like a pop star. Good afternoon, everyone. Gracias. This is your phone, huh? Good afternoon, everyone. And welcome back to the second session of today's conference. And thank you indeed for coming back after lunch. It's a great pleasure for me to speak with you today. And thank you again to the Ministry and to Alejandra for the wonderful invitation. The title of my talk today is The Jack Trial, Key Messages for Relationship and Sexuality Education. And I've kind of geared this talk as a kind of talk that's hopefully of interest to people who are designing or delivering relationship and sexuality education, or who are researchers on this. We'll carry on. And I first of all would like to acknowledge my team who have helped me develop this research. And I work with partners in particular on this project in University of Glasgow, the London School of Hygiene and Tropical Medicine in London, Cardiff University and University College London. And this is my whole team, and these are the funders of my research, which I would like to acknowledge. Thank you. So the structure of today's talk is I'm going to tell you about what is If I Were Jack. And I hope it will actually complement the talk from this morning, because I'll work through a worked example of how we developed relationship and sexuality education, and it might sort of follow on from some of the general principles that Ineke so nicely drew out this morning. But I will also bring out our three big messages, if you like, of what we have learned or what I would like to share as a result of our experience of researching and producing relationship and sexuality education. Okay for the translators? Not too fast? Un poco? Sí. Gracias. Finally, I want to tell you about what we have specifically learned about the value of this particular educational resource, If I Were Jack, in terms of seeing perhaps how useful it might be to you. Okay. So, what is If I Were Jack? Well, the Jack Trial is a 12-year program of work on developing, implementing, and evaluating relationship and sexuality education led by my team at Queen's, but in partnership, not just with the universities that I just mentioned, but with our partnerships with the Departments of Health and Education in Ireland and throughout the UK. If I Were Jack is the actual educational resource. It is an evidence-based, user-informed educational resource for use in schools. The aim of If I Were Jack is to prevent unintended teenage pregnancy and to promote, as Inika has said, positive sexual health and relationships. It's a targeted resource in the sense that it is designed to fit into the school curricula now of UK and Ireland. And it's targeted at the age of 14. And it reflects what Inika described this morning as a comprehensive sex-positive approach to relationship and sexuality education, even though the steps to get to that have been slightly incremental for us as well, because we had to bring all our partners along with us on that journey. And it's targeted in the sense that it is only really dealing with teenage pregnancy and relationships around that. So it's not a full curriculum. It's designed to fit into a curriculum. It's designed to be taken as a package that can go into a curriculum, but we always work with the curriculum developers to know which outcomes it's pressing, where it fits and what it's doing. But I'll learn more. You'll learn more about this as we go along. Okay, what's unique about If I Were Jack? Well, what is possibly unique is that it's based around an interactive video drama, which tells the story of a week in the life of a young man whose girlfriend has just told him she is unexpectedly pregnant. And each student wears headphones and goes into this interactive film and has to imagine if I were Jack. And so in a little bit of a way, the way your colleague talked about a decision-making tool, it's imagining being in that situation, imagining the consequences, making it real for young men. The second unique aspect is that even as Inika, as long as RSE has been developed in the Netherlands, you described this morning, you also identified engaging with men and boys, especially around the pregnancy issue, is still a gap in the curriculum. Gracias. It's still a gap. And so this resource is one of the few resources that taps into that long-standing neglect of teenage men in relation to pregnancy and reproduction and being men's business too. Another, not entirely unique, but a seldom used tactic is that it involves parents in the resource. So in response to the questions earlier, I'll show you how we involve parents in the If I Were Jack resource, because it reaches out to parents as part of it. And finally, the unique aspect is that it's the first randomized controlled trial study of a relationship and sexuality education program in the UK, which included faith-based schools. So in the UK in general, when they're doing trials, they usually say, yes, but we won't go near the faith-based schools, such as Catholic schools or strongly Protestant schools. They'd only go to the state schools. But in my country, in Northern Ireland, half of the schools in the country are faith-based schools. So it would have made no sense for us to exclude faith-based schools. So we engaged with them to create a resource that was also acceptable in faith-based schools. All right, thanks. Okay, so what does it contain? If I Were Jack contains the following components. An interactive video film, which I'll get to show you, and follow-up classroom activities, which are designed to be done in classrooms over the next 4 to 6 weeks, 1 class per week. It's 4 or 6 weeks because in different parts of the UK, the class times are different. It involves teacher training. It involves us going out to train teachers in how to use the resource in a 1-hour face-to-face training, but we've also made this an online training package. And it involves now, after learning over the years about how to engage parents, parental animations or cartoons that are texted out to parents to help involve them in the If I Were Jack, to tell them what it is, to tell them why we're doing it, and then to engage them in a conversation with their child around the If I Were Jack. Okay. There's also a dedicated website for the teachers and parents and pupils to use for If I Were Jack. So I think even though it's in English, I'm going to show you a little bit of the interactive film so you get an idea of it. And, oh yes, now we have to go to this website, this one. Okay. Yeah, thanks. Now, it's in English, but I'm going to show you the London version.
Hi, I'm Jack. I'm going to tell my story, and I want you to put yourself in my shoes. You'll be seeing the world through my eyes. You'll be me. I want you to imagine making some decisions for me, helping me sort some stuff out, because things are starting to get difficult around here. It's Saturday. Great. Not a bad day. It's Emma. Been going out with her for a while now. I actually really like her. All right, Emma.
Jack, can we meet up? I need to talk to you.
Well, I'm just heading out now. What is it?
Look, I really need to talk to you.
Is everything all right?
No, Jack, I need to meet you now. Can you come to the Greenway?
Right. Okay, well, I'll see you down there in 10 minutes.
Okay.
I wonder what's up with Em. Doesn't sound good. I hope she doesn't finish with me. I'll let the lads know I'm going to be late, and I'll head down to meet her. Hi.
Hey.
Are you okay?
No, Jack, I'm not okay.
What's up with you?
You're not going to believe this, but I'm pregnant.
What? Shit, are you serious?
Yes, I'm serious. I took a test from the chemist and it was positive.
So what are we going to do now?
I don't know.
Well, I don't know either.
Maybe I should go and see someone. Like a doctor or a counsellor or someone.
Have you told anyone else?
Not yet. I'm afraid to. I think my parents will guess. I mean, I look terrible and I haven't slept properly in days.
Shit. Your dad's going to kill me. Emma starts crying. I just put my arms around her. I don't know what to think. All this stuff is going through my head.
So, if you were Jack, what would be your strongest feeling? Now, there's very few men in the room. But I picked on a poor man at the back of the room to answer the question. So, kind man, what would be your strongest feeling? Please, Mayor. This one. Thank you. Okay. Okay.
Emma went to hers, and I took the long way home. Needed time to think. Shit. Pregnant. I just couldn't stop thinking about Emma, how she'd be feeling now.
How do you think Emma would feel? Jack. Frightened.
Creo que confusa y con miedo.
Gracias.
¿Alguien más?
I forgot about meeting them. What are they going to say when they hear about this?
What? Are you taking the piss?
Listen, it's her problem, not yours. Tell her to sort it out.
Are you going to tell her to get rid of it? You're going to be a dad. Good for you, man.
Did you not use a condom?
She's got you now, mate. Listen, she's a slag. Just tell her it's not yours.
Well, look on the bright side. At least you're not firing blanks.
I suppose you won't be hanging about with us so much now.
You've got a lot to deal with, mate. What about getting it adopted?
Look, don't let it get you down. You've always got us, you know.
Do you have an answer? No? What? Okay. Carry on.
I get home. Everyone is out. At least I don't have to face them yet. I try to imagine what they'll say.
I can't believe this. She's ruined your life.
She's what? How could you be so stupid? Did you not take precautions?
You're a stupid idiot. You've really messed up this time.
Get out. I don't want to see you again. Well, it's your problem, Jack. You're the man now. You decide what to do.
The best thing she can do is have an abortion.
And who did you think was going to pay for all this?
You'll have to have the baby. Take the consequences.
After all we've done for you, and this is how you repay us.
What about school? College? Your future? Well, I suppose I always wanted to be a granny.
Well, I hope it's got her looks and not yours.
It's all right, son. No matter what happens, we'll be here for you.
It's not the end of the world. We'll work it out.
If you were Jack, what would you tell your mother, female carer? Or sorry, would you tell your mother? Yeah? Okay, we'll go with yes. See? Good man. If you were Jack, what would your mother say? Mm-hmm. Didn't use protection. Okay.
Yo si fuera la madre de él o el padre lo apoyaría primero. Y después vería todas las otras opciones que pueden haber.
¿Alguna otra respuesta?
Okay,
A ver.
we'll take one. We'll go, keep going. Yeah, keep going. Okay. Would you tell your father? See. What would he say? Okay. Yeah. First one? Okay. Todo es bien. Todo will be bien. It'll work out. Okay? Gracias. Then, he's still in shock.
That was Em again. What am I going to say? I don't know. It's all too much. I can't deal with this now. But I can't stop thinking about it. How did this happen to us?
If you were Jack, would you wish she'd just disappear out of your life? No, no. Okay.
It's Monday, so back at school. I meet up with Emma at lunchtime. She looks strange in a uniform now I know she's pregnant. Are you okay?
No, not really. I just don't know what we're going to do.
Have you thought any more about seeing a doctor or someone?
Yeah, maybe I should go to a sexual health clinic. I heard they have counsellors that you can talk to about pregnancy and stuff. They don't judge you, and it's free. Anyone can go. Will you come with me?
We have to. Yes, she says. Is it too close? Near the mouth. Okay.
Porque ella dice, estamos diciendo las respuestas políticamente correctas.
Sí.
Bueno, entonces digo, bueno, pero si yo fuera Jack...
No. Say what you want. If you were Jack, that's the idea. It's your decision.
Por eso.
Sí.
La mía sí, pero a veces es verdad que uno dice lo que se espera que se diga.
No correcto answers. Your answer. So go yes there. Okay. Just go yes, and then I'll show you another. I'm not going to show you the whole film.
After lunch is English.
You like it? Okay.
Can't concentrate on anything. Is Emma going to have to leave school because of this pregnancy? Am I going to have to leave school? If we keep the baby, will I have to support it? I'll have to get a decent job.
My life would be messed up. Fair enough. Go with that. Yeah, I shouldn't take so much time of your time, so I should stop. It's about a 25-minute movie. So I'm just going to show you a little bit of the functionality of the movie, though. Go back into it just for a minute. You see. I just want to show you, if I go escape, no, oh yeah, what I want to show you is this. Okay. If I go into the scenes, you see, and it has considering the options, and you can go down and look at the scenes here. Okay, so it's broken up into scenes. And the only reason I want to show you this is, look, we watched as far as in class. but I just want to show you this because down here it's about considering the options. And the point really being is that 3 options are presented to the young man and the young couple. You know, considering keeping the baby, considering a termination of pregnancy, and considering adoption. And the story doesn't conclude. The story is left open for each person to decide which way, and it's supposed to just be a supportive mechanism to think through the advantages and the disadvantages of each of those options. And I suppose in some ways, what was great for us for a while even was the Irish government took this programme and distributed to schools throughout Ireland before abortion was available in Ireland. So it showed a kind of an openness to considering it and thinking about it. And even though the option then would have been to travel for an abortion. And interestingly, when the Department of Child and Adolescent Health in the US had us over to look at the program as well, because they were interested in the young men angle. And they felt in the US that they couldn't distribute a program that mentioned abortion in schools, that it was just too inflammatory. So it just goes to show the cultural variation, and sometimes you can be surprised by countries where it is acceptable to talk about it and where it's not in schools. So it's interesting. Okay, thanks a lot. We'll go back to the presentation now. Great, thanks. You're doing a great job over there. So basically, I've showed you so far the film about If I Were Jack. I possibly won't take your time now to show you the parental animations, but I've provided the link here and I can show it to you afterwards, or you can look at it yourselves. I'm sure Sylvia will distribute the slides. But I'll tell you in a little while why we ended up doing parental animations and not other ways of connecting with parents, because we failed a lot before we succeeded. Okay, so that's the parent animations, and I'll go on. You've opened it up. Well, very quickly, you've opened it up into the parental animation site. So you can play that then very quickly since you're there. It's the opener text. This is sent out by the schools by text to the parents, this link to this video, and it's the opening information. It'll come. Doch. See. But earlier it was slow. Maybe the play button? See?
Right.
No, we've lost function on that. So we'll, you know, you've lost, it's not functioning 100% there for us.
Think again. Teenage pregnancies are not a thing of the past. In the UK, 1 in 4 young people under 16 report having sex, and teenagers tend to be more sexually active than parents think. Around 30,000 girls find out they are pregnant each year. And having a baby, which around half do, can impact their education, employment prospects, and health. So what can parents do about it? Sex education in schools is important, but a parent's guidance is often the best support. Just by talking with the child about sex and relationships, a parent can
Don't worry. It's just the internet link that's not working so well for us there. But you get the idea. And we did these films out for parents because we started by doing information sessions in schools for parents around relationship and sexuality education. But really, we found parents didn't attend. They didn't come in. And also, some teachers were unwilling to do 8 o'clock at night session for parents when they could come. So it didn't work for us. So we changed over to sending the information out by the school out to the parents by the text link, because that's how schools communicate with parents in the UK now, by sending out messages by text. But also schools announce it at their curriculum days when the parents come in at the start of the year, and they tell them that they do RSE, and they tell them why in the ways that Inika was describing this morning. Okay, we'll move along. Right, I'm going to move to question 2, which is why and how we developed If I Were Jack. Okay. So first of all, the why. Well, I would say maybe 15 or 16 years ago, I was just a researcher. I was interested in researching this topic. I think I've been a feminist since I was very small. But I guess at the same time, I've always been kind of passionate about men, and I've always been interested in men. And when I took my academic career off, I wanted to research men's attitudes to reproduction, pregnancy, abortion. What do men think? And so I did a lot of research, first of all, on just understanding adolescent boys' attitudes to an unintended pregnancy. And to do this research, I came across this film that this Australian group had made. And when you're doing research, sometimes you put a little written scenario on paper and you ask people to imagine you're in that scenario. Well, the Australian group had taken that idea but made a film, an interactive film, to help people understand being in that situation and just to research their attitudes. And that was what sparked the idea. And I got in touch with that team. They shared the film. Then we made our own version of it, and we researched this in schools in Ireland. What do young men think about an unintended pregnancy, and what would they decide to do? What would their attitudes be to abortion, keeping the baby, etc.? Okay, so that's what I was doing, and I was happy doing. But really, people and teachers, policy stakeholders kept approaching us saying, look, this would make a fantastic relationship and sexuality education tool, because the children in the schools were so interested in the film. And so we then got that whole group together, teachers, pupils, policy stakeholders, and worked together to develop the relationship and sexuality education program, If I Were Jack. The second reason why was that systematic reviews of the literature on relationship and sexuality education were really demonstrating that this was a gap in the area, and that the World Health Organization especially recognizes that gender equality is especially important to preventing teenage pregnancy, and that engaging with men and boys was a real gap. The third reason is something you recognize in your strategy, that relationship and sexuality education is a right. It's a right of the child, and it's enshrined in the United Nations Rights of the Child, where Uruguay is a signatory. And the final reason why we developed this program is that high quality relationship and sexuality education on its own will not solve teenage pregnancy, but it's an extremely important part of it. And especially universal RSE in schools to all children before we even pick up the particular areas of needs. So that's the why. Okay, the how. So how we developed it, this kind of charts it out, that as I described to you, at the start we were just doing research on what do adolescent men think about pregnancy. We also did quite a lot of research on parents. How do parents talk to their children about issues about sexuality so we could understand it better? And I think one of the punchlines that came out of that research on how do parents talk to their children about relationships and sexuality was that when they are under 12, children generate the conversations and parents close it down. And when they are over 12, parents try to generate the conversation and teenagers close it down. So that was why, Ineka's approach was so very interesting this morning, that unless you start early and normalize that conversations, it's very hard to change that. Well, the child starts it, the parent stops, the parent starts it, the child stops. So we did that sort of research. We also did research like Ineka with children in care, understanding their particular needs. Children in care, meaning children who do not live with their parents. And then we went on to develop the actual intervention. And so how did we do this? Well, we went back to young people to remake the script of the film. So this film is scripted by young people with young people and working together with a production company. But it's also scripted with our RSE stakeholders, with the departments of education, with the departments of health, because they're sensitive about what sort of materials goes into schools. So it's important to keep those partnerships. And then we went on to do a randomized controlled trial test of If I Were Jack. And the kind of, you're probably familiar with this, but the kind of gold standard way to do randomized controlled trials of educational interventions is to follow a framework where first you do a feasibility trial, which is a kind of a pilot trial, a small pilot trial, to make sure your intervention is acceptable and feasible to implement, and that you can recruit schools into your trial before you go doing an enormous trial, which costs a huge amount of money. So the how phase is really, we are now finished the feasibility trial, and we are on to the full UK-wide effectiveness trial. You'll notice, though, that between doing the feasibility trial and the next trial, we had another upgrade of the film. And I showed you the London version because one of the things that came out was the Northern Ireland accent doesn't work so well in London. Okay. Now, I just want to tell you, I was telling you about the research that we did before we built the intervention and since, and I just want to tell you or share with you where you can get that information. So if you would be so kind as to press that link, the publications link, and I have brought along a list of our research, if you like, here. But you'll see that shows the research thing, and that's where you can access it if you wish afterwards. I've brought along some copies of some papers as well today. Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, I'm going to move to the third question now, which is our 3 big messages on developing and implementing high-quality relationship and sexuality education in general that we've learned in the course of creating and implementing If I Were Jack. Okay, All right. Our three big messages are messages that are, in some ways, I'm sure, not new to you. You will understand these concepts. You will have heard of them. But I'm going to show you what they meant to us in doing Jack through this example. So the three messages are evidence-based practice, practice-based evidence, and outcomes-focused and logic modeling. These were our three big tips, if you like to share. Okay. Evidence-based practice. Well, as I told you, I was just a researcher understanding men's views around this. So to find out then how to create the best possible relationship and sexuality education, I had to go to a different type of research and find out what makes good RSE work well. And this is what I learned that informed If I Were Jack. I've learned the importance of using interactive modalities which promote identification and engagement. So that means that whole idea of putting yourself in If I Were Jack's shoes, using those kind of modalities that really bring young people into the situation, help them understand the consequences of being in that. And Ineke also spoke about the importance of the digital world, and that is with us. Ensure engagement by being culturally sensitive and age sensitive. One of the things that's made If I Were Jack so successful for us to date is that it's clearly made and looks like people like them, so they can identify with it. And when we made the London version, we had to make it more ethnically diverse. And it's important that people can identify with it, that it's not someone else, it's you. Skills building components. So, If I Were Jack is built around the principles of helping young people find out the information themselves. Ineke talked about attractive and accurate information and building up the critical skills of young people to find the information, to assess the information. Now, we can talk a little later about how I manage this with faith-based schools in terms of, we provided each student with a wallet card of reliable information. And sometimes in faith-based schools, we had to put different web addresses down, but we never veered off from the principle of accurate and reliable information. That's important. This is very important. You've all talked, since I've met you, about the importance of gender equality and challenging gender norms as being key to addressing teenage pregnancy. And, an RSE component is just, it's not going to change society. And it's a real criticism of RSE, because you could say you need to change society to change things like entrenched problems like teenage pregnancy, okay? But RSE gives you an opportunity to create agency in that with young people. Consciousness raising. So that's really what we're doing in RSE. You're not changing the whole society, but you're beginning. Okay. Ineke mentioned this too, the importance of RSE reaching beyond the classroom. And for us, that was reaching into involving parents. I think coming out of the research, the reach beyond the classroom is sometimes more important in developing countries where a lot of young people are out of education. So it depends on what reach beyond the classroom means to you and is sensible for you. Most important, perhaps, is to make it enjoyable. And one of the unintended consequences we have found with If I Were Jack in our current trial is that it's particularly enjoyable for children with special needs, where there's a move away from written work, words, and it's quite interesting that it's enabling young people with special needs in classrooms to participate. And finally, theoretically based interventions that look at important determinants of sexual behavior. So we use the theory of planned behavior in our intervention. It underpins it. It underpinned a lot of what Inika was talking about this morning. She talked about addressing social norms, attitudes, intentions. And that is a kind of a theory of planned behavior. So it's just understanding that all of those components, not just the technologies, are important. Okay, that's it on evidence-based practice. The next bit is practice-based evidence. Nothing will work unless it can be implemented. And so we worked very closely with our target group, young people, but also we worked with key statutory stakeholders. And this is, I know, completely normalized for you now, but that is so important. It was so important for teachers because they wanted to see the stamp of the Department of Education or the Department of Health on the curriculum resource. It gave them confidence that they were dealing with something that they could, if parents rang up, talk about. So when we moved this resource beyond Ireland and Northern Ireland into the UK more broadly, we had to build up that network again. So now we work with Education Scotland, NHS Scotland, Public Health Wales, Sex Education Forum in the UK, in England, and PSHE there. And so we're all on a journey, aren't we? It takes time. It's about building partnerships. Okay, the next one. But what's great about when we build these partnerships is that they become the advocates of it. You know, you can step out and, you know, then teachers say to us, it offered an experience that no book could match. And RSE experts will say things, you know, struck by the quality of the filming, the authenticity. And a pupil will say, it made me think that I should never get myself into this situation. So they become the voices. Your target group and your partners become the voices. Great. The final tip that I want to offer in our programs is, again, I know you're familiar with this, but I'll just show you how we did it, if you like. But it's outcomes focused and logic modeling. And so it just means being very clear about what outcomes you are going to target in the resources that you develop, and creating a theoretically informed roadmap of what you are trying to achieve and how you are going to achieve it. Now, this is true for your overall curriculum, as it's true for targeted resources, such as If I Were Jack, because it helps you plan the components and help you understand what you might be missing. And I will show you our logic model now, please. Next slide. Now, I know the print is very small here, so I'm just going to go over a little bit of this. So over here we have the problem we're addressing, the high rates of unintended teenage pregnancy, and the lack of awareness and roles of teenage men and teenage women in planning to avoid unintended teenage pregnancy. The If I Were Jack components are education about risk and protective factors associated with UTP, personal identification with the consequences of an unintended pregnancy through the video drama, peer communication, and parental communication. So those are the main elements of If I Were Jack. We are targeting beliefs about consequences, knowledge, skills, social influences, beliefs about capabilities, intentions. And what's written in the inside there are phrases of young people. So we put this up for the young people right at the start, so they come on the journey with us. They know where we're going with this program. And the behavioral outcomes we are looking at are delaying sex, and underneath it says I won't have sex until I am ready. And avoid unprotected sex. I won't have unprotected sex. So that's our logic model for if I were Jack. And it's just an example of how you will work through this for an RSE program. Okay, last question. What have we learned specifically about the potential of if I were Jack? Okay. So I showed you this was the program of work earlier. And I just want to tell you that this is where we're at. We finished the feasibility trial, and now we're on to the UK effectiveness trial. So now we're doing the large trial in 66 schools across the UK to find out if I were Jack is successful in avoiding unprotected sex. The Jack feasibility trial, very briefly, the aims of this were to ask, is the resource acceptable in schools? Is also participation in a trial acceptable? Can you recruit all the different schools you want? Can you retain all the schools you want to do a trial? What is the cost of this resource in real terms when you implement it in schools? And also then to test our questionnaires and sample size for a phase 3 trial. Okay. Now, the methodology of this study was a cluster randomized controlled feasibility trial with a process evaluation and cost evaluation in 8 secondary schools with 831 pupils, mean age of 14 in Northern Ireland, and a transferability study of this intervention throughout the rest of the UK. The sampling strategy is important. It was a maximum variation quota sample. And the reason why we took that approach is because we wanted to see, could you use Jack, if I were Jack, in faith-based schools, non-faith-based schools, poor schools, high academic achieving schools, schools in rural areas and schools in urban areas, because you want to have that spread if you go to do universal RSE. So 4 schools were randomized to each arm, control, and the other arm continued with usual practice, and the study was for 12 months long. Okay? The results are that we found that Jack, it was acceptable. In other words, it is acceptable to implement a resource in schools in Ireland and the UK which addresses especially teenage men and unintended pregnancy. That is really the question we answered. Is it acceptable to approach that problem in that way? And yes, we found that it was very acceptable to pupils and parents and teachers. We also found the trial methods worked great in that we recruited and retained all our schools. The transferability question was good in the sense that it did work in England, Scotland, and Wales, but as I told you, we decided we had to make a second version to make it more understandable in London and Wales. And that's about the cultural identification issue. It's very important. We found out that it was affordable to implement If I Were Jack in schools in the UK. It costs £13.66 per pupil, and that includes the teacher training component. And the results, even though this was a feasibility trial and not a full trial, show that 9 months later, there was a reduction of unprotected sex in the intervention arm that gave us a percentage that, if it were to happen in real life, would show a difference in a reduction in unintended pregnancy. So those in the intervention arm improved. They had less unprotected sex than those in the control arm. Okay. That's it. Right, conclusions on If I Were Jack. overall, what can we say? If I Were Jack is really part of an international movement and an international gap, if you like. It responds to a global health policy for a paradigm shift towards the inclusion of men in sexual and reproductive health. Inclusion of men alongside women, making men part of the solution to these problems. It's demonstrated to be acceptable and feasible to implement, and it's been demonstrated to be highly engaging to pupils and teachers and parents to a lesser extent. Still hard to crack the parents. UK-wide trial underway at the moment to look at the effectiveness. That's where we're at. And I'll just, the next slide. Oh, just a few things from the current trial, what people are saying. The interactive video drama positively received. You can bring it all up. My friends were shy to talk about it at first. After the video, they were more confident, so that was good, so the pupil said. A female pupil said, it's opened how girls think about boys, because boys keep their feelings to themselves. Well, whenever Jack was talking about Emma, it makes girls more aware that the boy actually does go through stuff, and they just don't know how to deal with it. So another pupil said, it's good, it makes you aware. I don't think having a baby would tie in with your schoolwork very much, you know. Too much stress from school and from waking up late at night to change nappies and all, says a male pupil. IVD was positively received. The male role, what they felt was that gap was filled, and the activities were perceived as relevant. Okay, final slide. All right, I just want to tell you our next steps and signpost some other things that, if you're interested, I know you're tired at this time of the day, but other things that we can share with you are that the UK-wide trial is underway. What interests us most now, after developing If I Were Jack universally for schools, is moving to work with more marginalized men. And in particular, young men in care and young men in custody. And if you are interested, I can also show you briefly a different program we have developed for young men in prison. And it's called If I Were a Dad. So it's a different program. And the other next step, if I just go back, is working with global partners. So the other piece of our research that's very current for us at the moment is we've done an overall review globally for the World Health Organization on what are the interventions available to engage men in sexual and reproductive health across all of the WHO SRHR outcomes, so violence against women and girls, maternal and child health, so 7. You're familiar. And we also looked at the group that we call gender transformative. What are the interventions that are really trying to change gender relations? So we've mapped that out in a systematic review working with the WHO, and that is due to be published this week. But if you wish, I can show you some of the results of that as well. I know you're tired. Okay, overall conclusions. So for policymakers, my overall conclusion is, as you know, relationship and sexuality education is our right. But how do we get it right? And we're all on that journey. And I think we know where we're going. But we have to just go there in steps and bring those partners with us. And keep the sex-positive approach, but bring people with you on it. If you lose, you'll only have the liberals. You don't need that. So for researchers,
any researchers in the room, I would say that moving from fundamental research into intervention development and evaluation, Inika, where you are, is well worthwhile. I wouldn't go back. It's absolutely great place to be. And so for any of that information, if you just search If I Were Jack QUB publications, you'll find it. So I'll stop there and I'll see whatever else you'd like to see. Thank you.
Sí, hola. Sí. Agradecer a María la excelente presentación y bueno, a mí en principio me hace pensar cómo actuamos en Uruguay, ¿no? Nos hace pensar todo lo que nos debemos en la metodología, en el demostrar que lo que estamos haciendo impacta y la rigurosidad que necesitamos para mostrar esta evidencia empírica que todos tenemos o percibimos que es importante. Esto creo que nos muestra cómo se hace y cómo debería hacerse un camino de aquí para adelante. Así que bueno, María, muchas gracias y bueno, abrimos a la discusión o a las preguntas que tengan o dudas. Bien.
Hola.
Hola.
Gracias por el aporte impecable basado en varones, muy interesante.
Perdón, pero hoy me olvidé, me parece importante que se presenten antes de, ¿sí? La pregunta. Gracias.
Hola, mi nombre es Patricia Piris, coordino el área de educación sexual en primaria. Educación sexual en primaria. Mi pregunta va dirigido a que planteas que el recurso, que me encantó, focalizado en varones, hay un ítem o una parte del recurso, capacitación de los docentes. Y me gustaría saber si nos podés contar un poco de qué trata, cuál es la intención, en qué marco es que se hace.
Yes, great question, thank you. Well, in the If I Were Jack program, we developed alongside it a teacher training manual and a teacher training session to educate teachers on how to use the If I Were Jack program, but I suppose more generally to help build up their skills and confidence in delivering RSE. And that is the way that teacher training in RSE is done in the UK and Ireland at the moment. Sort of, you know, sessions here and there. So, like the Ministry for Public Health in Northern Ireland tries to run one-day sessions for teachers on how to do RSE education. And to some extent, it's helpful. It's very helpful. But it's not enough. And it's not, the only way it's going to work is if RSE is seen as fundamental to the education of teachers in teacher training colleges. Because what you have at the moment in the UK and Ireland is the geography teacher or the PE teacher being asked to do RSE. And so that's where we are. We have done, we do these training sessions and they're very helpful, but we need to move it into the teacher training colleges. You have. And that's where we need to go. Because like it's mandatory in our curriculum, but the support structures to educate teachers isn't there yet. And teachers feel very overwhelmed on it. And they're especially scared, as some of you have identified earlier, of a parent ringing up. And Inika said, we're all scared of the one or two, oh no, you said it, all scared of the one or two conservative parents. Well, yes, as researchers, the same thing. We have to get consent from pupils and parents to do research in schools with adolescents on RSE. And believe you me, my time could
a whole week could go into responding to a parent who has objected to my research in schools. So, and teachers are afraid that a whole week of their lives will be taken up with dealing with a troublesome parent. So, they need skills, confidence, education, and we need to bring the parents with us on that journey. Inika said it earlier. See. Gracias. Does that answer your question? Thank you. See. You're tired, guys.
Bueno, buenas tardes. Ahora sí. Bueno, como hoy de mañana no nos presentamos, como dice Silvia, yo soy Alejandra López, de Facultad de Psicología. Y, bueno, en primer lugar, agradecerle a María. Yo estoy muy feliz que ella esté aquí. Realmente nosotros, como programa de género, salud reproductiva y sexualidad, nos conectamos con la obra y el trabajo del equipo de investigación que lidera María hace unos años, pero personalmente nos comunicamos con ella el año pasado por primera vez. Nos generó un gran entusiasmo el trabajo del proyecto If I Were Jack, y de hecho hicimos una propuesta en aquel momento basado en la misma metodología del Interactive Video Drama, una propuesta para Uruguay, al fondo de ANI, el Fondo Sectorial de Salud, que en ese momento no fue aprobado. Casi todos los proyectos que aprobó el Fondo Sectorial de Salud de ANI eran proyectos de investigación básica médica, y este proyecto, que era un proyecto de una idea de proyecto, porque luego había que desarrollarlo, se presentaba primero la idea y luego había que hacer el trabajo de desarrollo de esa idea, que presentamos con el apoyo del programa de educación sexual, no fue seleccionada. Y la idea era replicar, adaptándolo culturalmente, el proyecto If I Were Jack, o una idea similar. Era un proyecto, les cuento, porque en realidad es un proyecto que nosotros no lo hemos abandonado, y de hecho la idea de que María esté aquí también es parte un poco de retomar esa iniciativa. Ese proyecto era en acuerdo con la Facultad de Información y Comunicación de la Universidad de la República para la producción del video, y con TV Ciudad, que es la televisión oficial del gobierno de Montevideo, y la Facultad de Psicología y el programa de Educación Sexual. Y habíamos hecho una alianza en ese momento con algunos socios para avanzar en esa idea de un proyecto piloto, obviamente, para hacer un recorrido que nos permitiera tomar, sí, ya el desarrollo hecho por el equipo de María en Irlanda del Norte y en otros países de Gran Bretaña, pero también la experiencia italiana, la experiencia de Australia, que venían también trabajando con modelos similares. En el caso de Italia fue con muchachas, con adolescentes. ¿El de Italia o el de Australia? Uno de los dos. El de Italia. Bueno, entonces, ¿por qué para nosotros fue muy inspirador? Y yo se lo decía a María, y cuando teníamos la oportunidad de invitar, yo insistí mucho en que María Lohan fuera una de las personas que podíamos contactar. Le decía a Silvia la importancia que tenía el trabajo, fundamentalmente en esto que señalaba Silvia, ¿no? En cómo desarrollar intervenciones, en primer lugar, que sean innovadoras, que sean integrales, que tengan un enfoque integral, y que permita tomar algunos temas postergados, digamos, ¿no? O invisibilizados, o que tienen menor foco en las estrategias o en las acciones que desarrollamos. En este caso, la participación de los adolescentes varones en las decisiones reproductivas sobre un embarazo intencional o no intencional. Entonces, a mí me parece que es muy interesante esto que ella plantea con la experiencia, identificando incluso cuáles son las barreras también que tenemos para implementar un tipo de intervención que pueda ser evaluada, monitoreada, que nos permita modelizar, ¿no? Intervenciones, identificando los resultados. Yo creo que nosotros tenemos, Silvia lo decía, el país tiene un acumulado muy importante. Todos quienes estamos acá hacemos muchos esfuerzos en las aulas, en los servicios de salud, en los territorios, en la academia, pero no siempre tenemos la posibilidad de analizar lo que hacemos, cómo lo hacemos, con qué resultados, cómo evaluamos procesos, cómo evaluamos resultados, cómo evaluamos impacto. Entonces es una enorme energía que muchas veces está desperdiciada, porque no podemos aprender de una práctica sistematizada, ¿no? El proyecto que comparte María a mí me pareció siempre muy interesante, no solamente por lo innovador en su diseño, sino también por esta cuestión de efectivamente cómo traducir el conocimiento que hemos acumulado, las evidencias que disponemos, que hemos producido desde la academia, pero también desde otros espacios, en intervenciones basadas en esas evidencias y no solo basadas en la experiencia, ¿no? O el juicio clínico, o esta cuestión más artesanal que tenemos muchas veces, que es importante tener esa sensibilidad, pero que no es suficiente actuar en función de experiencia acumulada, pero sin que eso esté necesariamente sistematizado, saber por qué hacemos lo que hacemos, para qué lo hacemos y con qué resultados esperamos obtener, ¿no? ¿Cómo mostramos que eso efectivamente es así? Pero me parece que ahí hay un enorme, todavía estamos como en un momento, en mi percepción, como de tenemos que dar ese paso. No podemos seguir haciendo más de lo mismo, digamos. No tenemos que en algún momento, es un salto cualitativo, en calidad. Tenemos que dar ese paso y decir, bueno, vamos a tipos de intervención que nos permitan como evaluar efectivamente cómo estamos haciendo, qué estamos haciendo, para qué y con qué resultado. Entonces, me parece que esta es una experiencia notable que es muy factible, obviamente es trabajosa, pero es factible de ser implementada con los ajustes y todo lo que implica adaptarla a un contexto latinoamericano, que no tenemos antecedentes, pero me parece que es una herramienta muy sensible para poder utilizarla con las variantes que requiera, ¿no? Y a mí me parecería, no sé si es para ahora, pero sí me parece que es importante como, si pudieras, María, contarnos cuáles han sido como estas dificultades, algo hablaste de ello, pero estas dificultades de involucrar a los socios en el proceso, ¿no? Porque eso es difícil, sabemos que es difícil. Y los socios pueden ser desde actores gubernamentales, sociedad civil, los padres, los docentes, y ahí hay...
Yes.
Si pudieras contarnos algo de eso sería genial.
Yes. Okay. Yes, I have to think, but let me chart it as I go. Well, in Northern Ireland and in Ireland, when we started out and we had this interactive film, it became what my colleague called our calling card. And everybody liked it. Everybody liked this film. So because we had it made, it sort of became the way to draw in the partners, you know. And then, so we showed them this film, this interactive film, and then they saw the potential in it. So that really helped. So as I said, it was they who asked us, would we do it? And then we did it together. The second thing I would say is that I had many meetings with the Department of Health where you might say they were being unreasonable, or in terms of being more conservative than you would like them to be. And we had to listen and take that on board. And sometimes we made changes to If I Were Jack that you wouldn't normally make. But I think you have to compromise. If you want that state stamp especially, you have to compromise. So that's another thing. Then when we moved to Scotland,
one of the problems there is that they're so very well developed with RSE. It was a different situation. And they said, not sure about taking out one of our good bits in our program and putting in If I Were Jack. But they decided to do it. And they decided to do it in an area of Scotland where RSE was less good than in Glasgow City, for example. And they came with us then on that journey. And then in England, we found it difficult to build up partners in England because RSE is only mandatory from September in England. And the state structure for RSE is not that well developed in England. So who to partner with was not so clear. And so we partnered initially with an NGO, like Ineke described, called the Sex Education Forum. But that was interesting too, because, you know, we were, I don't mind saying this, we were coming from Northern Ireland. And Northern Ireland has a smell of conservatism to English people. And so they thought, not so sure about this. And then they came with us. Then they saw, yeah, you know, you have something different with the engaging men. And so each partner we talk to, it's not my way or the highway. Is that okay, translators? It's a compromise. And so that's with the stakeholders. Parents. The main difficulty with parents for us is just how to get a hold of them. How to get their attention. And you'd imagine that schools have good systems of communication with parents, but actually they don't about anything. You know, really, not really, you know, because they bring them in at the start of the year and they tell them things. They bring them in during the year, but that's to tell you about your child. But an ongoing system of communication isn't well established. So what do they have? They have that text system. So we abandoned, as I said, the face-to-face meetings and went to the text system and communicating with parents. Other challenges are just be careful about the methodology you choose too. Randomized controlled trials, trying to shift biological factors through educational interventions. I must admit, it's tricky. And so there are times when the English government used trials, randomized controlled trials, large trials of good interventions in the UK, which didn't show a difference in teenage pregnancy as a reason not to introduce RSE in schools. RSE, like Ineke described earlier, is good at shifting knowledge, attitudes, understandings, and sometimes behaviors. But really, it's difficult to show from an RSE intervention that you will impact on a biological outcome in 5 years. So I'm a big fan of rigorous research. I'm a big fan of doing randomized controlled trials, but you have to be also a little skeptical about what you can achieve. And I would say to you, create outcomes on knowledge and attitudes. I had to promise behavioral change to my funders. So if you can get funders who will fund research that will show different types of changes,
So that's very honest, if you know what I mean. It's just to say that a lot of trials have shown that RSE interventions will not shift biological outcomes, but they do a lot of good, and they are a central component of it. Would you agree, Annika?
Yeah. Well, we conducted one RCT study in the secondary school, and it showed also some positive outcomes. But it was also an intervention in the secondary school for 14-year age people. So in the Netherlands, they are not sexually active at that moment. Only a minority. But what we could see at the end, there was more knowledge, there was more positive attitudes, but also the intentions to use a condom and to use contraception was higher than before they got the lessons. So we had also the same experience, and we have to look at other outcomes, not only on the behavior outcomes. So that's really interesting what you said. I agree totally with you, because there are also other outcomes. Because the teacher said, well, I feel more confident. The pupils, the learners, the young learners, they said also, well, now I know where to go when there are problems. Oh, I have learned to talk. Well, this is also very important. These are worthwhile outcomes also. But the department, the government, they want to know, are there less pregnancies? Well, it's difficult to show. If it is only by one intervention with 6 lessons, of course, we have to do more, but we have to do it step by step, and we have to show also the other outcomes. So you are professional, and you can see what it makes for sense. You can see how you make the difference, and we have to tell it, we have to share it, we have to publish it. So great. I agree with you, totally.
Great. I don't see any other hand up at the moment, so I just wanted to make the opportunity to tell you something else very briefly, even if I don't show it to you. Recently, I've started to work in prisons with young men, and many of you are sexual health doctors or family physicians and nurses, and I want to share this with you because really, once you start to work with very marginalized groups, any difference you can make is a big difference. And it's really satisfying. I'm really inspired by it at the moment. And so I just want to tell you briefly the story of what we're doing in prisons, very briefly. So first of all, in prisons, you'll find that most people have a much higher rate of STIs and HIV. So high rates. And they go undetected and undiagnosed and untreated. And the second thing is that 1 in 4 young men in a prison at age 18 to 21 will already be a father, and usually has lost the connection with that child already. And so we worked with nurses primarily, first of all, to set up a sexual health service in prison to detect STIs and to treat STIs. So we trained up the nurses to do the detection and the treatment for chlamydia, gonorrhea, etc. HIV still goes to the specialist clinic, but the routine STIs are treated in the prison. And this was a change from a consultant coming in maybe once every, month or two in response to a crisis, to now a continuous sexual health service in the prison. But the second thing we did was we created a health promotion video made by the prisoners to tell the other prisoners that STI treatment is available. And I'll give you the link and everything for that as well. But the third thing we did was we brought in If I Were Jack into the prison, because the governor said, I have all these men, it's a big sperm bank, it's creating this problem, not thinking that these men were older. But he said, no, come on in, bring it in. And so we said we'd try. And what we found was they loved the films. They loved the opportunity to talk about relationships, sex, fatherhood. But of course, it was too young for them. So we made another program called If I Were a Dad. And it's much more hard-hitting. It deals with domestic violence in their lives and in their relationships. It deals with parenting together or apart. And it's all about not preventing an unintended pregnancy, but planning to be a father in the future when they come out and planning for it to be positive. So I just share that with you in case some of you in the audience I know are working with marginalized groups of people. I'm sure you are.
Hoy en la mañana sí había gente que trabajaba con población. ¿Está ahí? Está, para que aparezca. Pero probablemente podamos nosotros con el material y todo lo que tú estás contando después transmitirles, ¿no? La importancia de esto. Justamente es uno de los debes de nuestra estrategia o de las debilidades, el trabajar con poblaciones especiales, ¿no? En condiciones especiales de vida, así que bueno, nos va a venir muy bien. ¿Va a proyectar otra cosa? Ah, ok. Pero, ¿qué es lo que va a...?
Would you like to? It's up to you. It's 2 minutes. Okay. This is the video that prisoners made to tell the other prisoners that STI testing is available in the prison.
Ana, ¿puedes venir a poner el video? ¿No? ¿Hay alguna otra pregunta, duda, comentario que quieran hacer? Sí. A ver, creo que llego.
La pregunta es bien concreta. ¿Por qué trae este grupo marginal en esta temática? ¿Es en su lugar un problema el embarazo adolescente no intencional? No estamos hablando de menores tampoco, supongo, no conozco la legislación. Pero en nuestro caso los menores no están privados de libertad en cárceles. Mi nombre es Leticia Ceballos y pertenezco a la Dirección Departamental de Salto.
Thank you, Leticia, for your question. Well, if I understand you, yes, these are 18 to 21-year-olds. So it depends how you define adolescence, but basically we're not trying to prevent unintended pregnancy. We're trying to promote planning a pregnancy in this group in particular, and planning fatherhood to be positive so that they can be involved with their children. And but the children under 18, there are children in custody in our country between 12 and 18, not in formal prisons, but in custodial settings. And we're working with them too.
Just not feeling it tonight.
Why not? You going off me?
No, It's just using a condom. It's like taking a shower with a bin liner on.
Well, what are you suggesting?
Going bareback. You know, free willy. Letting it all hang out.
Well, I suppose I am on the pill, but you need to get checked out before I let you near me.
Cheek, you must think I'm riddled. And me, nearly a virgin. Anyway, I'm not letting some doctor get their hands on me.
It's not like that. They can just take a pee sample and do a blood test.
Well, if it's so easy, where did you go to? It's only fair.
Well, I've nothing to worry about.
What if they find something wrong? How would they fix it?
Usually, a course of tablets or a cream.
Right. Well, did the nurse say we need to do it more often?
Actually, she said we can't do it until we get our results.
What? A week without sex? Happy days. We both were given the all clear. Come on, dude.
No need to ask me twice.
Anybody who has sex can get an STI, and you won't always have symptoms. You're more likely to get one if you have sex without a condom. A checkup includes a urine test and a blood test, which can identify a range of conditions. If you test positive, any sexual partners you have had will need checked out too. Sexual health. Get checked out.
I'm sure it was difficult to understand, but you got the gist.
Muy bueno.
You can just show them the framework if I were dad, just even the picture. Yeah. See. This is the program called If I Were a Dad, and this is the program we've developed for young men in prison to bring them through a gender transformative program, really, about understanding roles and responsibilities around intimacy, consensual sex, domestic violence, and preparing to be a dad, either parenting together or apart. And I suppose the big difference between this program and the other program is this is much more hard-hitting, if you like. This is much more dealing with young people's experience of domestic violence, because most young men in prison have experienced violent childhoods. So, just to show you. See? Not totally interactive.
No, preguntaba si también era interactivo, programa interactivo.
Actually, the website is interactive, but no, the films aren't, Nora, because we don't have the technology in the prisons, and so they don't have access to the computers. So we use this on an overhead instead.
So you think you're ready to be a dad? Well, it's not as simple as you think. I've heard you guys give off about your own dads. But what about you? What are you going to be like as a dad? Do you think you can handle it?
Well, that's the Northern Ireland accent. And the films are scripted from the young men's lives themselves. They helped us make the films. No, I'm sure you want to go home.
Primero un aplauso para... Va a cerrar Nora porque creo que fue siempre el nexo con todos ustedes, pero no sin antes permitirme decirles que me provocó lo que dijo María, que el Ministerio de Salud siempre le interesa, o lo único que le interesa, es bajar la tasa, y sí es cierto. Las autoridades del Ministerio están muy contentas porque las tasas han bajado, como decían hoy, ¿no? Como contaba hoy Alejandra, de 58 o 60 nacimientos de madres de 15 a 19 a 35,9, casi 36, pero eso a nosotros desde el Ministerio y desde liderar la estrategia, si bien nos importa, no nos esconde o tratamos de ver lo que realmente nos importa, que desde el inicio nos importó y por eso trabajamos con todos los sectores, que tiene que ver, que tiene que ver con restituir los derechos y proteger a nuestros adolescentes, ¿no? Entonces, ya estamos como en una segunda etapa donde tenemos que focalizar las acciones desde todos los sectores y bueno, probablemente en esta nueva etapa que nos encuentra a todos, tenemos mucho por hacer y no sabemos, se echó a rodar, no sabemos cuánto tiempo vamos a estar y si vamos a seguir, pero por eso priorizamos que ustedes, que sí, son todos técnicos y que están en los territorios trabajando desde los diferentes sectores con un compromiso importante y con grandes dificultades, apostamos y priorizamos esta instancia, dejando tal vez, porque por un tema de organización no podíamos convocar a todos los que hubiéramos querido, pero nos parecía fundamental compartir estas experiencias con todos ustedes y con gente que viene desde tan lejos como Artigas, Salto, ¿verdad? Acá encontramos muchos compañeros, así que yo le voy a dar a Nora el cierre y agradecerles nuevamente a las expertas y a todo el público que hoy está reunido acá.
Bueno, queda poco para decir, ¿no? Ya dijeron de todo. La idea un poco de Silvia y del equipo que yo cerrara, porque, bueno, de alguna manera fuimos la mesa de territorio, la que lo convocamos a todos ustedes, con todo el esfuerzo que esto significó para nosotros con llegar a ustedes y para ustedes poder estar hoy acá. Yo creo que eso es una cosa que tenemos que valorar muchísimo, que tenemos la participación de todo el país. Me quedé callada porque unas compañeras que se ve que se les va el ómnibus porque se están yendo. Pero digo, a lo que voy, me quedé con esta idea de que así como valoramos tanto lo que las compañeras de afuera nos traen, también me ayudó para valorar mucho lo que nosotros tenemos. Tenemos la estrategia, tenemos la participación intersectorial e interinstitucional, que es una cosa muy compleja, que es lo que Alejandra preguntaba hoy, quizás cómo lo habían logrado, y nosotros lo tenemos y eso es importante y hay que valorarlo con todas las dificultades que conlleva, que sabemos que los que estamos dentro de esto sabemos las dificultades que tenemos, pero mirándolo un poco de afuera y quizás con los ojos también de las compañeras, poder ver el valor que tenemos nosotros en poder trabajar en forma interinstitucional y que somos un país chico y eso nos permite, por ejemplo, hoy poder estar todos representados acá. Yo creo que estas experiencias de las compañeras que vienen de otros países nos hacen ver esas dos cosas, ¿no? Nos hacen ver la mitad del vaso lleno y la mitad del vaso vacío. Nos hacen ver aquellas cosas que tenemos y que logramos y nos hacen ver aquellas cosas que todavía nos quedan por hacer y nos pueden dar también gérmenes de ideas como para ser creativos y ver cómo seguimos trabajando. Yo creo que lo importante de hoy es justamente eso, poder quedarnos con esa semillita de las cosas con las cuales podemos seguir trabajando. Personalmente me quedó como muy fuerte la idea de mirar un poco como para atrás, digo, para atrás en el sentido que estamos enfocados en los adolescentes y creo que capaz tendríamos que mirar un poquito para atrás y ver qué está pasando con los padres y qué está pasando con nosotros como adultos enfrentamos a esos adolescentes, ¿no? Yo trabajé mucho tiempo en primera infancia y una imagen que siempre me pareció buena, es decir, estamos tan preocupados por sacar a los niños del río que no miramos quién los está tirando. Y me parece que en ese sentido, esa es una perspectiva, creo que es como, por lo menos a mí me quedó como de cambiar un poco la mirada y poder decir, no podemos dejar de trabajar con los adolescentes, pero tenemos que trabajar con los adultos que están, donde estos adolescentes conviven, donde la ideología que nos maneja. Me pareció bien interesante lo que dijo Valeria hoy, en el sentido de que tenemos muy fuertes las voces de las familias y los padres que cuestionan lo que es la educación sexual, cuando probablemente son una minoría y la mayoría que está de acuerdo no tiene voz. Capaz que es el momento de darles voz a esas otras familias. Creo que tenemos en nuestro país muy interesantes investigadores e investigaciones que nos dan insumos. Creo que tenemos muchas cosas hechas y muchas cosas por hacer, y son estas experiencias de otros países los que nos ayudan a visualizar de otra manera el trabajo que nos queda. Yo, de todas maneras, por supuesto, las experiencias han sido maravillosas y valiosas y nos abren la cabeza. Pero bueno, agradecerles a cada uno de ustedes por haber venido hoy acá. Como mesa de territorio, nuestra intención es tener un contacto, seguir un contacto muy cercano con ustedes. Vamos a seguir haciéndolo y les pedimos que ustedes tengan la confianza y la confianza, por supuesto que la tienen, pero quiero decir que sientan que es fácil comunicarse con nosotros y que la idea es poder continuar trabajando juntos. Como decía Silvia, cambiarán las caras, cambiarán las mesas, cambiará, pero tenemos que apostar a que la estrategia siga viva y siga funcionando, porque está dando resultado y porque queda mucho por hacer, por ambas cosas. Así que bueno, muchas gracias a todos por haber venido, muchas gracias a las compañeras aquí y bueno, nada, un segundito porque Silvia tiene la conferencia.
Que tenemos un café ahora, pero antes Alejandra les va a invitar.
Quiero aprovechar la oportunidad que brinda Radio Sport, ¿se acuerdan del viejo dicho? No, mañana María Lohan va a dar una conferencia en la Facultad de Psicología a las 18 horas en el aula magna de la Facultad de Psicología sobre intervenciones innovadoras en educación sexual. Es decir, están invitadísimas para quienes están acá en Montevideo o quienes viven en Montevideo. Para quienes no están aquí o se tienen que regresar a sus pagos, la conferencia la vamos a filmar y va a estar disponible luego en la página web de la facultad. Claro está que va a estar sin la traducción. Mañana vamos a tener intérpretes en la conferencia como hoy aquí. Y la conferencia va a estar grabada en inglés. Pero bueno, capaz que las que no puedan ir pueden animarse a escucharla en inglés. Y también decirles que va a haber entrega de certificados para aquellas personas que lo requieran. Esto para que estén invitadísimas. ¿Sí? Bueno, listo.
So great films. Yes. They show all kinds of situations that you go further on with the reflection on the fears and the fears. That's so beautiful.
Que me decía que ella de ir hoy al...
No, te decía,
no,
capaz que ella dice que no.
Mañana fue la conferencia, yo no sé si iba a decir a las 2, había cenado, porque yo tenía a las 8.
Porque averiguamos si puede entrar el nene, y hay una cosa de tango y eso, como para que vean algo, ¿viste? Un trago, yo no fui después de Gabriel, que está ahí al lado. Bueno, está, vos fuiste. Bueno, vamos a preguntar. Sí, claro. ¿Cuándo? ¿Mañana? Sí.